Okay, and we're live. Welcome, everybody. Bootleg Weekly on a Monday today because the market is in turmoil. And David says we're not even in correction market, let alone bear market. Brace yourselves. We need another therapy session. Roy, how's it going?
We are in correction territory, so I'm doing a lot better than my stocks are today. Everything is down, including my hedge, VG, and it's like, dude, can we not? But we may have further to fall, although there's some super investors that we're going to talk about today that think that this is a great opportunity, and there's others that are a little bit more cautious. And so, mostly today, we're going to focus on a few individual pieces of news, but I think broadly the macro and what's happening with the overall markets, what might happen from here. Tevis, how are you?
I'm doing good. I didn't have a chance to look at the markets at all today, but I did when I got home, and it does not look good. So, yeah, exactly. Had to finish this undercover mission. Back to regular old programming.
Yeah. So the reality is, though, as far as the actual market, we'll look at Ackman and a couple of things that he said, which is pretty interesting. And usually when at least get when you get conditions like this where things have been selling off, or certain sectors or stocks have, you'll see some of the large super investors come out that are a little bit more vocal, or just individuals that are in the space, and they'll talk about what's going on. And reality is, though, we are in correction territory. We are down 10%. Actually, I think we closed up. Yeah, we closed just up above the 10% threshold. So I guess we're not technically in correction territory yet. We were looking that way until the end. Popped up slightly. There's always tomorrow, though, right, Tevis?
Yep.
That little pop right there saved it, or made it worse, or prolonged it. So why? I guess, like, let's take a step back. There's probably a few people out there that have not really been paying too much close attention. Why are we in this mess?
Um, because of potential to start World War III, or are you looking for another answer? Like I
Well,
I saw Iran's message, which is kind of wild that they're like giving financial advice. I don't know if you saw this, but
I did.
yeah, I basically saw it over the weekend, and they were like, "Hey, you guys have to fade Trump pumps in the morning." And I looked at the market when I was going to work in the morning, and I was like, "Well, it'd be a shame if they're proven right," and they absolutely were.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, they're just repeating what's happened over the last month, so it's not really that astonishing. But the other factor too is, um, you well, you're in Canada. I don't know if you have the same um, folk tales or not, but you've heard of the boy who cried wolf?
Yeah,
Do you
dude,
know that
I'm in
one?
Canada, not
Okay.
in like Afghanistan or something. Like we have the boys.
I don't know. Like, you're in like a third world country, so maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe you have different. Well, okay. So if anyone is listening, and I'm not meaning to offend Canadians, just Tevis, but yeah, that's kind of what's going on. As far as, like, people were expecting a taco earlier, I was skeptical, and I've been skeptical. I thought that at best we were looking at least a month of this, at worst a lot longer, and it's I overuse the word quagmire, so I'll say morass. We're in a bit of a morass. It's hard to get out, and it's not enough for Trump just to post and say, "Hey, trade talks are great and everything's awesome and we're winning this war." That gives the stock market smaller and smaller bumps upward, and also they last less and less time. And eventually, like, if he keeps doing this and things have not changed at all in like a couple of weeks, you won't see any reaction from the stock market at all. So that's not what is going to save the stock market. Really, the bigger concern, though, is not World War III. It's inflation being reignited, and at the same time, maybe the stagflation, that you have a stagnant economy at the same time as roaring inflation, which is, of course, what we had in the 1980s. I think we're a long ways away from that being a reality. People talk about this all the time, but there's a higher likelihood of that now. It's still pretty small, just because when you absolutely nuke the energy market, when you cause oil to go above a sustained level of 100, when LNG prices are spiking and energy is going up, energy flows right into inflation, and it's not just an energy read, but it has downstream effects for commodities, metals, everything. And it's tough. So the longer this lasts, even let's say that we get things resolved in 6 months, there is going to be lasting damage that takes a long time to get out of the system. We're not thankfully looking at rate hikes right now, at least as far as people predicting things, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see zero rate cuts at all if we see this thing persist for another couple of months. And I hope that we don't. There's a lot of really horrific impacts around the globe, and the United States will feel a lot of that in the stock market and our lower income folks. But there's people in the third world country that, I mean, they might starve if things get bad enough, just because it's not just oil, it's also fertilizer, it's crops, it's commodities. It's just like, and this didn't have to be. This isn't like a COVID situation. It's not a ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal, if you remember that one situation. This is something that, frankly, Trump brought on himself, and it's a bit of a mess. So I think until we actually get confirmation that we are de-escalating and looking at meaningful peace, whatever that looks like, hopefully not just a pause, we might be in this for the long haul, and it might not be too good. So Tevis, when are you thinking, and you can throw this up too, just so people have something to look at beyond just us, fear and greed in single digits. By the way, I had a video a couple of days ago before your response, and usually those times are a pretty good time to buy. If you look at it historically, if you overlay this with the broader index as well. But it doesn't mean that we instantly, once you get into single digits, fear and greed, that it's going to instantly rebound. But you can look at this longer dated as well. But we are in single digits. It's felt like a while. I mean, we have had some euphoria in there, but man, that's a lot of fear and extreme fear for being in a bull market. So, Tevis, when are we out of this mess?
I mean, look, I think it's the answer is the same as when you asked me last week, which is when we get a resolution to the geopolitics. Now, one thing I will say is I don't think I saved this, but I definitely saw it where people had looked at other global conflicts and the relationship with the market, and the market bottomed far before the end of the conflict. But
Yes, good
at the
point.
same time, we haven't even started the conflict here. Like there's, but by started, I mean boots on the ground. And I think that's really what we're trying to avoid right now. I don't think, Trump wants to have boots on the ground. I think he's bitten off more than he can chew. Um, I don't know if you saw the early polling or the at least the poly market for midterms. I mean, if we see those numbers, they definitely see the numbers. And I don't think anybody wants this conflict. And so, really, in my mind, it's in phases, right? Like, does it end before boots on ground? And if it doesn't, then after boots on ground, when does it end? And that's really going to be the determining factor of what this market looks like. Does it go lower, or does it start to rebound? But I think we can have a prolonged drawdown, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be like the Liberation Day pullback where it fell very sharply and then it bounced back immediately. I think it can be something that's more drawn out, which is absolutely more painful to have.
Yeah, you had a really good point of things oftentimes bottoming before resolution. I still think that we might have a little bit further to go. Neil, thank you by the way for the $2 and saying cheers, my guys. But yeah, the reality is it's. I don't think that this is necessarily like, unless something is resolved maybe this week, that we're looking at a V-shaped recovery, all-time highs in the next month or two. I do think that we could see, if this is resolved in the next month or two, all-time highs again by the end of the year, probably after midterms. Midterms years are tough anyway. You usually get a correction almost always, and we're like percents away from closing at the correction on the S&P 500. Pretty much every other major index is in correction territory, and that usually happens before the S&P 500. But yeah, I don't think it'll be an instant rebound. I am skeptical that it gets resolved in the next month or two. We may bottom by that point, though. But I think what's likely, based on the RSI We're very close on the weekly to oversold conditions. We were at 35.5 going into today. I imagine we're like 35 or 34 maybe after today. And it could be oversold for a little while, but usually when you see that, when you see fear and greed index so far down, there's a lot of people that do come into the market and buy, even if it's just a relief rally. But that might be a time to maybe get out of some positions that you don't want to be in and get into some things that you want to be in longer term. But I mean, it's anybody's guess at this point. All I've done is very carefully sell covered calls, but I did very little of that, only of really high beta names at strikes that I'm okay with. Because honestly, if the end of this conflict hits, while we won't see all-time highs, we will see some really good rallies at that point, and it's going to blow up covered calls. So I don't want to get hit both ways. But yeah, the only other thing that I did was just buy more VG.
Yeah, I mean, I think VG has been doing very well, rightfully so. I wrote a little bit of covered calls last week, but closed those out fairly quickly. I think the main thing that will trap me right now is Nebius. It was down quite a bit today, but that my main question is like, how do I sustainably buy this dip without necessarily knowing when the dip is over? Because I'm okay to take on some more risk and go into some margin if need be to try to catch some of these discounts. But I got to do that really carefully, because if I jump in sooner, then I'm going to be in a tougher position, so to speak. And Meta is looking really, really attractive at these levels. Of course, people are saying Meta can fall into the 400 range, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot in the market. There's too many. I'd bought a little bit of Micron, not like a crazy amount. After earnings, it was falling, and I'm like, hey, this is positioned very well. There's been a couple of changes as it relates to the memory market itself. OpenAI backed away from the basically saying that they're going to buy 40% of the world's supply. And if you look at the spot market, that it's a little bit weaker than you'd expect as far as price when you have that type of market, which makes sense. And so Micron has been caught up in this as well. I actually ended up not putting in a stop loss, but I said, you know what, I've had enough of a loss at Micron. Let me just buy more VG. VG was taking two, and I don't know why VG was down today as well. I guess I do know maybe why, but yeah, if we're gonna have more longer term pain, I'm like, give me some more VG shares in 16. So, and SoFi, did you see SoFi today?
I didn't see SoFi today, actually.
We hit the 14s, Tevis. We didn't end there, but we hit it.
Wild. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were at the 14s in overnight trading as well. I know, because I made a video last night on SoFi, and yeah. It's 165 on Nvidia. Wow.
Yeah, Teradyne's been tanking along with Air Test Systems. It's down. It was down about 10% today. Hit the 20s for a little bit, but it's back up barely in the 30s. But yeah, everything is just in my portfolio. It's like, man, it is bloody, messy, nasty, and I don't even want to look at my all-time at the year to date today. I'm not going to do it. So if you ask me what it is, I know what it's around, but I don't want to know what it is. So
I think Micron just keeps falling, eh?
Oh yeah, Micron's going to zero, I guess. I don't know. But wow. I mean, it was a swing trade for me, not a long-term position, and it is stupidly mispriced. It's way undervalued, but there's also a lot of stocks that are in that boat. And when I do swing trades, I do tend to set stop losses, although I didn't this time. But I was just looking over the weekend. I'm like, hey, some things have changed as far as the memory market, the forward price to earnings, which was part of the reason why I got into Micron. It may not be. Yeah, I did see that. Actually, a lot of payment names. That's the one nice thing. Like, people always say when you're in a sector or stock and it's just been falling and getting pummeled, that oh man, just wait until the S&P 500 starts pulling back. The reality is, not everything falls at the exact same time, and there's a lot of stocks and companies that are just so stupidly mispriced and so oversold that they actually hold up pretty well. I think crypto is a good point of that too. It's not a stock, but crypto, I mean, it hasn't performed well. I'm not going to say that we're out of the crypto winter by any means, but it's held up a lot better than I would have expected over the last month. So I'll take
Yeah.
it. BMNR likewise.
This is
Not
what
it's not been great, but man, could be worse.
Tom Lee's been sort of pushing in all his weekly updates, how crypto is now like a wartime store of value because gold and silver are down and crypto's up. And I'm like, dude, like, yeah, but gold and silver are down from all-time highs. Like it's not Bitcoin's down from like 77 to 66. It's not down from 30. Um, so yeah, Neil, within $2. Load up on Micron, forget about earnings.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, that's the one thing. Like, yeah, Micron for sure. Is just if there's not a meaningful slowdown in the memory market, they're going to do extremely well. They're going to look very cheap. There is some cyclicality there, but it's like Nvidia. Like, it's mispriced even more so for Micron, although it is more cyclical than what Nvidia is going to put forward. The one thing that I'm kind of wondering about is I still see some rumblings of this, but the tech stocks are really getting hit initially because of the whole concern as far as AI being a bubble, that it's caught between the twin narrative of, okay, AI is going to eat everything and put every company out of business, or AI is just a fad and a bubble, and capex is going to fall off a cliff, and it's all just kind of phony and there's no ROI, which both can't be true. Neither have to be true. Maybe a little bit of truth in both, but this situation with Hormuz, with Iran, has lasted almost long enough that you barely hear this thought anymore. And I expect, even though it's not going to be fun if this lasts another month or so, that AI twin narrative that it can't really get past, it's going to be dead. Nobody's going to be focused on that at all. And even when the situation is resolved, I don't think that we're going back to that same narrative. Usually the market doesn't, unless there's credible evidence that kind of recycles it. It doesn't like to recycle the same narrative. So that might be the silver lining. Beyond just, if you have cash, if you have money and you're buying long term, like there are people that are pounding the table and saying that this is a generational buy. It's not really a generational buy. It's, long term as far as the S&P 500. Let me go back here just to show, and then we can talk about price to earnings and everything.
Thank you, Highland. Congrats to everybody who got a free membership.
Yeah, we're at levels seen last summer. And yes, earnings have done pretty well and everything, but it's not like, if we were down, here, 5,600 or so, probably not generational is misused and it's the wrong word, but I mean, that's a great opportunity as long as we're not looking at World War III and mass starvation of the planet and all sorts of horrible things, which I don't think that we will be. But we have to be careful calling something generational because then people go and say, okay, I'm going to use all the cash that I have, including cash I can't afford. I'm going to go ahead and go on margin, and it's a mess. And that's what a lot of the better analysts, the analysts that I respect Tom Lee. I like Tom Lee, but I mean, I think he's just wrong on crypto. It's a relief rally that we're still in a crypto winter. You will have very strong relief rallies in the midst of it. And just because it's outperformed gold and silver over a short term doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're back into the crypto bull market. We will repeat and get there maybe, and I think it's likely by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't read too much into it. But yeah, it's even the bond market is just showing signs and issues. I actually was looking for a different post here. Let me see if I can find that right quick.
Well, I mean, one thing I will say is absolutely, it's not necessarily generational, but a lot of these people are in high beta names that have been hurt disproportionately to the SPY. If the SPY's flat, some of their names are down 50% already. What I will say is generally speaking, those names will bottom first and start to recover before the rest. So it does sort of go in sequential order in many ways. But yeah, there's a lot more room to the downside to keep falling. Just hope we don't get there.
Yay. Okay, here's a post that I wanted to show. This is kind of a recycled, and X will do this, not necessarily the market, but X. This is from Apollo originally, where they came out, I think, in December, and they said, hey, we might be in a situation where we're looking at 10 years, a decade with 2% forward returns. And they have a dot plot here, which is it's not really the best measure. Like we have so few actual 10-year periods at S&P 500 that you're suffering from actually a lack of data when you're looking at that long of a time frame. Anyway, and a lot of the argument here as well, like you can see that there's a very clear trend. The forward price to earnings, the higher it is, we're somewhere closer to 20 now. But regardless, like of course, the higher the PE is on the S&P 500, usually that means there's been a lot of growth that's priced in, and as a result, you might see lower returns. But the reality is, if you look at this guy's argument, which it went semi-viral, well, actually, that's less than I expected. There's a lot of like, let's completely ignore growth, let's ignore AI, and I'm like, growth is actually kind of important. And one of the factors, if you see something like this, look at where earnings growth has been this last year. Look at where it's expected to be over the next year or two, and it's meaningfully higher than what we've looked at in the past. And so that's really, really important. Dude, only down 1% more than the market. That is great. Good job.
Wow.
But yeah,
Um,
ignoring growth, ignoring that we are still in the middle of an AI arms race, even though it doesn't feel like it, is just kind of silly. So
so this is actually also interesting. S&P currently down 8.5%. The average midterm drawdown, so S&P midterm election years, you see the drawdowns every single year into the midterm. And then obviously the 1 year forward return is always green. So it's interesting, Roy, because back in 2025, we put up this exact same chart and it was like October or November or whatever. And we were like, no way 2026 is going to be a down year. Like this is going to break the trend. And it's holding up. It's holding up with every single midterm year in like the last 70 years.
well, okay, so this is two different things. Max drawdown is not like how the year actually finishes up.
Yeah.
This is if you don't have any drawdown in a year, like it's 2021 again, I guess. It's just off to the races and up and to the right, and there is no drawdown. But even then, there's still a drawdown. You're always going to get one, and to get one of less than double digits is actually pretty rare, even in good years. So this is a little bit of a selection bias here, but I mean, like 2022 was a bear market, and I mean, 25% is huge, but you usually do get a correction, which is 10% or more. We're like at 9.8% where we closed,
Yeah.
so it's very close. And then the year-to-date forward return, that's just a different measure entirely. So, like even there in the max drawdown, you might have seen nice year-to-date returns, even at that point in the max drawdown. Not in 2022 though, or 2018 either. 2014 though, yes. So, but even looking at just things on a monthly basis, after midterm elections, the market tends to do pretty well. And the reason why it's not really so strange. Like part of the reason why the market is going down beyond just concerns with the war, it's concerns with inflation, oil, and all that, is also uncertainty. And it's really hard to predict what the next week is going to be like, not just in the stock market, but like in life because of the way that Trump is governed. It's incredibly erratic, and the market does not like that at all. It loves certainty. And so, one of those things about midterms is in the United States, it's not always the case, but it's often that if one party controls the House, the Senate, and the presidential seat, in midterm elections, you lose usually at least one of those. You can't lose all of them. That gives you gridlock.
Yeah.
Gridlock. What's that?
Which is good for markets.
Oh, yes. Yeah. As a libertarian, I like gridlock. I actually was hoping that we would have gridlock after the previous election. I did vote for Trump. I do regret my vote, sadly. But I was like, hey, maybe the Democrats can get like the House or something. And no. The reality is, yeah, with the polls that you're looking at, I don't think the Republicans lose a Senate, but I think that they lose a House pretty much for sure. Things can change a lot between now and then, but gridlock, politics aside, gridlock, the market is like, oh yeah, give me that. So we might be looking into like my expectation as far as like kind of the worst realistic scenario is we have just a lot of pain for a while longer. I don't think we get into a bear market, but we could see, the S&P 500 go down another 7, 8, 9%, which for a higher beta portfolio like mine, that's really bad. All the gains, not just from this year, which I don't have any, but also last year, will be erased fairly soon. That's not pleasant. But I think probably around late October or November, it doesn't have to be after elections. Oftentimes it starts rallying before. We tend to see some really good returns when things look like gridlock, just because the market loves it. And I think it'll love it even more given how Trump is governed. So, yeah. Wow.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, we'll talk about the regret your vote piece because Sven asked the question, and so we have to get to it eventually because that was going to be my question too. It's like regret your vote, okay? But I agree with the gridlock, and I think that this drawdown will be short-lived. Maybe that's hopeful thinking. But regardless, I do think that we're going to see some more pain potentially. The pain is coming from uncertainty. I mean, I think Chris Patel made this post, and I kind of agree with it. He was like, "Dude, if we just get boots on the ground, it's going to be a rally off of that." Because at least we know it's like, all right, well, we're in, and this is like the room that we're sitting in right now. It's just a matter of duration multiplied by magnitude, by size, but there's no uncertainty there. There's uncertainty of like, oh, is it going to end tomorrow? Is it going to worsen? Is it going to prolong in this purgatory that we sit in? I think that's the thing that is making markets more skittish, where they're like, hey, let me just take my money out, see what happens. And once I get some certainty, let me go back in. And it doesn't necessarily need to be good outcome. Like the certainty could be like, all right, well, it's now a war. We have congressional approval on it. And there's boots on the ground, whatever. It's like, cool, everything's quote unquote bottom. Let me go back in. So I do think it's just like this limbo state that's hurting us more than any decision that we make. Of course, I hope this gets resolved positively in a quick way. And I mean, if there's one thing you can say about Trump is that he's going to be very sensitive to the market because he sees so much of his progress reflected in the market, and that is both a strength and a weakness. Because on one hand, like if the market is going down every single day, then he's, I would assume, going to feel some of that pressure.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Trump has probably more than any president I remember kind of staked his reputation on the performance of the stock market, and it's not too good. It's not good at all. That's been part of what led to, I think, the taco events last April with Liberation Day, post-Liberation Day. This is a little bit harder because it's not just the United States can be like, okay, yeah, we're done. There's other players involved too, and it's a mess. I saw some people asking who Tevis voted for. He's Canadian, so yeah.
I can't vote.
He did not vote. I think we probably would have voted very similarly had you been in the United States, but you didn't have that luxury, not yet. So,
yeah, exactly. I can have a cop-out answer when people ask me. But I would have probably. Okay, continue.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk the Ackman post, and then maybe we'll talk some specific, just a couple of little things, which are actually really fascinating. SpaceX IPO. We need to talk about that for sure.
So what are we talking about next?
Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman said some pretty interesting things. Actually, a couple of interesting pieces. One on Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae I have that backwards, being basically a generational opportunity. He also thinks that now is an excellent time to buy. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but can you pull up the those posts that you wanted to share from Bill Ackman, and then we'll take a look at that. I think we're actually on opposite ends of this, which is a nice thing.
Okay. All right. Let me go into this. So Bill Ackman yesterday said some of the highest quality businesses in the world are trading at extremely cheap prices. Ignore the mainstream media. one of the most one-sided wars in history that will end well for the US and the world, and we have the potential for a large peace dividend. One of the best times in a long time to buy quality. Ignore the bears. This got 6.2 million impressions. He continued to say, and Fannie and Freddie are stupidly cheap, asymmetry at its best. They could be a 10x, and it could happen soon. I also want to read this post. I don't know, Roy, if you had a chance to read this or not. Kashir says the math on Fannie and Freddie is so dislocated it looks like a pricing error. Fannie printed 14.4 billion in net income last year. Freddie 10.7 billion. Combined market cap on the pink sheets right now is 12 billion. Combined market cap is 12 billion. The market is pricing 25 billion in annual earnings at a 0.4x multiple. Find me another 0.4x earnings multiple anywhere in American finance. It does not exist. The dilution fear is the reason the stock is cheap and the reason the stock is wrong. Treasury put in 187 billion. The GSEs have swept back over 300 billion since 2012. That's an 11% IRR. If the Treasury exercises its 79.9% warrants at today's price, the government stake is worth 9.6 billion. Okay, basically saying it's cheap AF, like cheap AF. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, so there's talks also in there of the IPO of one of them IPOing. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae is public, correct? Do I have that backwards?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, help me out in the comments. One of them is public, one of them is not right now. They're talking about a potential IPO. I mean, Michael Burry is also usually bearish, but he's bullish on both as well. So there's value there. I don't know that I would necessarily want to get into housing specifically more directly than through a lender like Sofi or Figure. And even though things look like they might be great opportunities, like in the current macro that we're in, honestly, like if we continue to have inflation that is persistent and pesky, and we even see, and I hope this doesn't happen, rate hikes, like the housing market's already not in good shape. Things could get a lot worse. So I think that there's better opportunities, better names, but I see why value investors would be very interested in that. But yeah, as far as like Ackman, if you look at his returns for the last little while under Pershing, it's not been really pretty. He's oftentimes been like a reverse, like a inverse Kramer type of situation. Not as bad. I think he's a very sharp guy, but I don't know, man. I mean, so it depends on your timetable, obviously. So if he's like arguing for pretty much any of the Mag 7 at this point, except for maybe Tesla, maybe Apple as well, and he's just saying, hey, they're really cheap, buy these names, in 5 or 10 years, I don't think anybody's going to regret it. They'll just regret not buying more. But the reality is somebody might be buying that and thinking, oh, long term means 6 months from now. It could be a lot lower 6 months from now. So I don't think that we've bottomed yet. I think that, again, a relief rally is going to come fairly soon in the next 2 weeks. But that doesn't mean that the pain is over. We have to, I think, see the situation kind of being wound down, if not fully resolved, and then we'll see a rebound.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Ackman's portfolio, Brookfield, Uber, Amazon, Google, Meta are his biggest positions. So, and I think he's been adding to Meta. He's been adding to Amazon, and then Meta was a new buy very recently. So we know what he means by quality companies. I even said in my post, like, yeah, guys, he's referring to Meta here. The problem is that this guy bought Meta at 650 and Meta's now at 520, 530. So he's down quite a bit on it. But I don't disagree with the bias. I mean, Amazon and Meta as a new position, like, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
So yeah, I mean, I don't hate that portfolio at all. There's some things obviously I couldn't own, but yeah, it's not bad, and I just don't think there's a number of people like even Mike Wilson, Goldman Sachs came out. He's not quite a perma bear, but he's also thinking that things are overdone. That now's a good time to buy. A lot of people are saying that as well. The question is, are they actually buying? Yeah, appreciate that, Fantasy Stock League. And I did see a message from you I need to get back to you on fairly soon.
Yeah, we need the 16-paragraph tweet from him to know the bottom is actually in. Or we need him to go on CNBC like he did during COVID.
Yeah.
Oops. Wasn't he like 27 million to like 2 billion or something ridiculous that he made on that COVID trade? And he was just like, well, do you remember this?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It disgusted me because
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he went on public media and did a bunch of fear mongering,
yeah.
which benefited his portfolio immensely. And I don't know that he even thought that what he was saying was right. He's like the muddy water short seller. Like, I don't care if it's right or not. I'm just going to spew out a bunch of stuff, get people to respond to it, and make a lot of money off of them. I don't respect that at all. Now,
Well, it really depends, right? Because on one hand, you could say like, oh, well, he was fear mongering because he had a short on. And on the other hand, he's like, well, he had a short on because he genuinely believed the fear mongering that he was pushing. Like, if I think the world is ending, I'm going to put a short on and I'm going to say to everybody I know, guys, the world is ending because I genuinely think it. Now, I'm not saying that that's him because like billionaires kind of think a little bit differently in terms of ethics and morality and human emotion and all that. But I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Yeah. So Ackman a while ago was proposing an idea with SpaceX, and maybe that'll be our next topic, to go ahead and IPO through the greatest SPAC ever through his company Pershing. Now, it does look like SpaceX is going to IPO, but it may actually happen in a way that's a little bit different than we expected. So let me pull this up here.
Yeah, while you do that, I'm just going to grab a water real quick.
Yeah. And of course, since Tevis is the driver, I can't throw this up, but you guys will see an article here by Reuters. Reuters, take it with a grain of salt that they'll publish a lot of rumors that aren't necessarily true or that people have an agenda for getting that floated out there. But they indicated that a couple of things that were interesting. So they mentioned Robinhood and Sofi in the same breath. And can you guys see that at all? Is it way too small?
It's small. Can you zoom?
I don't know if it's going to let me. Nope. Okay, let me try to just put that in a new image. There we go. Yeah, I've got it. All right, so Morgan Stanley is a firm that looks like they'll be handling SpaceX's IPO. And the way that this usually plays out is if you are handling that transition, then you want the stock available on as many exchanges as you can for that initial IPO allocation. And the reason why it's just supply and demand, right? If you have a very high demand opportunity like SpaceX will be, usually like this is not the time to get in for the long term, but people like to play it, and I do as well, like for that first month. But if you have that across a lot of exchanges, it fuels a lot of demand, and usually that actual allocation dollar amount is considerably higher as a result. We, of course, saw this on full display last year when we saw some major IPOs come to market at higher prices than were expected. This is kind of interesting, though. So E-Trade is likely to secure the majority of retail allocation for SpaceX. And do you know who owns E-Trade, Tevis?
Fidelity?
Morgan Stanley, the same company that is helping SpaceX come to market. Seems a little sketchy to me, but regardless, like that's in Morgan Stanley's best interest for sure. But they also said that two of Wall Street's biggest brokerages, which it's interesting to hear SoFi's brokerage, which is not really that big, be called this, but two of Wall Street's biggest brokerages may not get a piece of it. Robinhood and SoFi have both pitched for roles in the deal, but SpaceX is considering cutting them out altogether, the people said, asking not to be identified because the talks are private. It's an unusual omission for platforms that have become fixtures and marquee listings, including the 55 billion ARM holding as well. Thoughts?
I don't understand it. Like, how is this in the best interest of SpaceX to not open it up to more brokers?
It's not.
Well, why does SpaceX not have a say in that process?
They do.
I don't understand it. You
Yeah,
know,
but bottom line is, I think it's very unlikely. Well, okay, there's two things going on. One is this is one of, and there's going to be a few of these as well, a very unusual IPO to see a company with this size of market cap, and we'll see where it actually ends up. There is a bubble in private equity, or so be careful with this. Especially, don't go ham in buying your IPO stuff unless it's money that you can afford to just sit on for a long time. But the actual float that they're looking at selling is relatively small, and so they might be floating the argument and say, well, there's plenty of demand anyway, we'll just use E-Trade and maybe a few other brokerages as well, like Fidelity and others, and we can leave retail holding nothing and not being able to get in. Reality is, the more that they open up to, the more demand there is, usually the better price that there is from the SpaceX perspective. And then you also have the Elon Musk factor, who actually really likes retail. Not every CEO loves to have retail all over in their stock and discussing it, but a lot do these days. And Elon Musk was, kind of the godfather of starting that. He loves retail's participation in Tesla. He also has talked about this as a feature potentially for SpaceX when it becomes public. And so I would be pretty surprised if this sticks this way. But it was interesting that usually you don't hear SoFi and Robinhood being talked about in the same way, treated the same way, and I hope this isn't the case. The reality though is, like, it doesn't really matter too much. If I try to get some shares on SoFi and Robinhood, I might get one each, and that's probably it. So not
yeah.
big money.
Didn't Elon say recently that he was looking for ways for SpaceX to benefit long-term Tesla holders? How is this doing
Yes.
it?
It is not. Actually, Tesla is one of those, I believe, top 10 names that's held on Robinhood.
Like, I don't know, man. We have Say Technologies, right? Where they verify you're a shareholder in order to ask questions in the earnings call. Why can't he use a similar technology to say, okay, does Tevis hold Tesla shares and how long has he held Tesla shares? Do it under a certain threshold, under, I don't know, $10 million of Tesla shares, right? And then you can determine that they're basically retail, they're not institutions because they don't have the money for it. And then say, okay, great, this is my list of retail investors. They get first dibs at the SpaceX allocation for the retail chunk.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, by the way, if you could throw this up, the top 10 stocks held by Robinhood users. And so you can see a lot of the Max 7 in there, which, I mean, you can't really go wrong. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Google, and NVIDIA. There you go. The former FANG stock, Netflix, a lot of Ford. People love their Ford. This is because they gave a lot of Ford away during the COVID years when a lot of people came on
Yeah.
the platform. And of course, Palantir, because, hey, it's Palantir. Magnificent Eight. So, but yeah, Tesla, if you look at the size, it looks like it's second to NVIDIA. A lot of Tesla shareholders use Robinhood. There's plenty also on SoFi, I'm sure, although we don't have those numbers. So, yeah, I would be a little bit surprised if this sticks. Doesn't really matter long term. Like, if you are really wanting like, it's a shame that you can't get allocated any, because usually that's a better price than what you're going to see for the next month or two. But usually the best time to buy an IPO is 3
Never.
months, 6 months, or a year afterward, and then you'll see much better prices, even in some of the best companies that IPO in the world.
I mean, maybe he's doing SoFi and Robinhood a favor so that E-Trade retail shareholders can hold the bag for the rest of us because the market is in a shitty situation and it's going to be overhyped as hell. So when it loses 80% of its value, like Figma did, then the rest of us can step in and buy it.
Yeah. Are you interested in getting some shares right away or at some point?
At some point, maybe, but definitely not right away.
Yeah.
It's like if you had asked me in October, I would be like, yeah, I would carve out this much money for it. If you ask me today, I'm like, dude, I'm broke to buy Meta, let alone fucking SpaceX. You know?
Yeah, I'd have to sell something in order to be able to buy meaningfully, which, is why I had some money getting out of Micron for VG today. So, all
I
right.
can't believe
Beyond
you're buying
that,
more VG at this point.
I think this is long. I think we're in this longer. I don't think. I think there are talks happening, but it's kind of like with the Clarity Act, things are so far apart.
Yeah.
In the market, I was buying this as a hedge, and we'll see how it works. But like I've been winning that trade too. Uh, it's hard to see any resolution anytime soon on that, and also in Iran. And I really hope for both that I'm wrong. My portfolio will benefit. I think the world will benefit too. But yeah, the reality is it's in a tough place. But
Cool.
yeah, VG is like so. VG is kind of weird because what's happening with LNG right now, and Mike Sable, the CEO of VG. Let me timestamp this actually as well, so I don't forget to do that for later viewers. He and several other LNG C-suite folks have mentioned like, hey, this is great temporarily as far as our balance sheet and everything, but they see their company benefiting better from stability in LNG prices, not from this happening every few years. Which of course we had a massive spike. Um, I can actually pull this up. Did I ever show you the TTF and the different? Okay, let me
No.
real quick. Well, it doesn't have to be real quick. Okay, this is TTF. This is, it's a futures contract, but this is perpetual because it has the exclamation mark there. And this is a different measure than what the JKM market, the Japan Korea market, and then also our Henry Hub in the United States uses. So don't think that this is one for one. If you want to convert it, Grok or whatever does a really good job of doing that. But you can see what it's really useful for is actually tracking to see the change in prices. So we can see over the last month, the price of what they've been paying is up 73%, which is insane. Year to date, it's almost doubled. Over the last 5 days, it's up 7.96%. You can see there's times when it does spike a little bit more as well. The way that VG benefits, like they're kind of two separate businesses, honestly. They have their own LNG that they produce, and they will become one of the largest producers. They'll be actually number two behind Qatar when they get back up and running with their Ras Laffan field, and also when they have their North Shore expansion. But who knows when those things will be now. But they also have their own ships, and that helps them be vertically integrated, but it also helps them be able to benefit from the spread. Part of this too is commissioning cargoes that in the time between when they actually fully come online, everything's working well as far as production. There's usually a time span of several quarters. This is actually why they were sued, is they extended it a little bit longer than maybe was customary in 2022. But let's go out and we can see how bad things got right here. This is, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war, and a major source of LNG was disrupted from Russia, and things spiked. Like you can see, we're here at 55 versus at this time, very briefly, 346, but it was extended up in the hundreds for a long time as far as an average. And I was a little bit surprised that LNG, the countries were like, hey, that's a one-off, it's a weird thing, that's going to be it. Well, the problem is if this Hormuz situation lasts longer and longer, it's great in that these prices will increase, and then the spread between, let's see, NG1 or NG.
Hey, Roy.
Yes.
Roy, can you give me 2 minutes? There's somebody at my door.
Yeah. All right, so the spread between what this is trading at versus Henry Hub, which is around $3. I've not looked at it today. It just is widening. At every single $1 amount that they actually differ, the CEO went in. I'm going to misquote it, so I'm not going to quote it at all. I actually can pull up fiscal AI and do it. But regardless, they benefit immensely from EBITDA. It helps them be able to pay back some of their debt, which is at higher terms. It's going to give them a better credit rating, and then they can refinance their debt. So it's very meaningful for them, but it's a double-edged sword, because if this becomes another situation like this, and I hope it doesn't, because the world is in severe pain, what's going to happen, I'm afraid, is that people will actually move away from LNG and look for other sources. And we see China, of course, made preparations to do this a while ago. They've been building a lot as far as solar. They put in more solar than I think the entire rest of the world combined. A lot of nuclear reactors, a lot of actually going back to coal as well. So you can see China's LNG imports have fallen to the lowest in 8 years, and that's going to continue to go down as well. And other countries might start to see the benefit as we move away from globalization, or a consistent globalization. They might say, hey, we need to make sure that we have our energy secured with what we can actually produce and use. Not every company or not every country is in the same shape where they have easy access to a lot of energy sources, but anything that's taken away from the future demand is not ultimately a good thing for VG. Now, the nice thing is, it wasn't Sable that said this, and I don't remember if it was Chenier or anyway, it doesn't really matter. They said the nice thing is the market tends to have a short term memory, so it may be that this is resolved in the next 2 or 3 months. In which case, from a VG perspective, they made a lot of money, and it could have a very material benefit for them in the long term because they're paying down debt, getting that better credit rating, refinancing, and so forth. But if it lasts all year, it's actually bearish VG for the long term. So, but it'll be trading at a much higher level. So I bought more today. It was right around 17. I think it was in the 16s. Maybe it was just above 17, whatever it was. I just did a market order. Usually I don't do that, but I wanted it to fulfill. And of course, it fell a little bit more after that. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess Tevis is not coming back. So just kidding. Beyond VG, and we're going to do Q&A here in just a minute. I see that Tevis has starred quite a few of these. And so feel free to ask your questions away. They don't have to be related to any topics that we talked about today. I think that was pretty much it for me. There was some more interesting Palantir news. We covered the Robinhood stuff. And I already talked about covered calls as well. All right, let's see. I think that was all the topics for me to cover. Yvonne says, Roy, you don't think that it'll drop when war is over? It will. Yes. The rest of my portfolio will do incredibly well in that scenario, though. And VG is now maybe 9% of my portfolio. It might be 10 after the buy. It wasn't that big of a buy, but the rest of my portfolio is tanking and it's going up. So, but like you might see like 20% fall for VG. But even at the same time, what's happening, like if you look at analyst notes, and here's one where, especially if you're not really familiar with the field, and I've been researching it for like not even quite 9 months, so I'm just a novice. Thankfully I have friends that work in the field, so I can ask them and say, hey, here's a stupid question, give me an answer, please. And sometimes it lines up exactly with what Gemini or Grok is saying. Sometimes it's very different. But these analyst notes are coming out and they're saying, even if the Hormuz situation is resolved, between damage that's actually happened with one of the largest online LNG fields in Australia, between Ras Laffan being shut down for a while, taking at least a month to get back up to full capacity, minus the 50% that's going to take another 5 years, the North Shore expansion being delayed. You were looking previously at potentially an energy glut a couple of years out. I always thought that was overblown and unlikely. This has made it pretty extremely unlikely, barring a lot of countries shifting rapidly away from LNG, which I don't think that is going to happen. It's going to take a lot more pain for that to happen, but it's something that needs to be on the radar. So VG is materially in a better place. Plus, what also happens in this time, they've already announced one of these where they have long-term contracts, and they're open to medium and shorter term as well, but up to 20 years. And if it's in this kind of environment where, of course, natural gas prices here in the United States are quite low and reasonable, but it's somebody that they're exporting to, the biggest thing that they're wanting to do is make sure that they locate supply that's going to be at a fixed rate or fixed volumes rather for 5, 10, 20 years. VG is able to produce a lot above nameplate, especially as they continue to ramp up the production, CP2 when it comes online. So yeah, all that to say, analysts are noting and saying, even if things are resolved like almost immediately, VG's in a lot better place and it shouldn't be priced where it's at anyway. And so most of their price targets are assuming the Hormuz conflict is resolved in the next month or two and still saying VG goes up by the end of the year between where it's at and now. There's a few that dissent against that. But yeah, my guess is maybe we'll see a 20%, maybe even 30% pullback, which is why I didn't do a massive ad this week, but we're looking at 12 or 13. That's still up a lot over where I was before.
Cool. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, VG is saving my butt a little bit because I bought those shares and then I wrote covered calls on them. Of course, it blew past my covered calls because I wrote covered calls at 14, and I think I bought the shares at like 12. Um, but hey, man, I haven't lost that money because it would have gone somewhere else. So I'm looking forward to VG being above 14 on April 10th, so I can collect that money back like a little piggy bank with interest, and then spend it somewhere else. And if it's
Yeah.
under 14, then great. I'll keep holding VG.
Yeah, I actually had written some cash secured puts last week for under
Mhm.
14, and of course they didn't fill, which is fine. But yeah, I never know how to say his name. PBHAKTA80 says VG is settling cases now outside of court due to high LNG. We don't know that for sure, but that's likely. That's with Edison, and essentially the settlement was, we would like more gas from you. Thank you. And VG's like, okay, good, yes, we'll do that. The amount, none of that was disclosed, but usually a settlement of that type is pretty good, especially when it's like, okay, VG has gas, they want gas, good, let's do this. So we may see more of those, and that's the other thing that's hanging over VG as well, is we're still waiting on the damages from BP. It could be that BP does something similar where they're like, hey, you know what? Instead of damages, you're going to give us some free gas at this amount over this amount of time, and we'll call it square. That's a good thing for VG.
Yeah. Before we go into Q&A, Roy, wouldn't it be nice if you had this magical ability to make a tweet and then pump something by 50% in a day? Because
Yes.
that's what Ackman just did.
Yep.
Yep. All right, let's go into questions. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's time.
Or do we have any
I'll
other
tag
comments?
it.
Oh, cool. All right, let's do questions. You guys can ask questions and we will answer the questions. All right, let's see. First question.
Don't hit the like button.
Did you see China is mapping the ocean again? Used to be mining energy, but they started using ocean cooling for data centers.
Yeah, interesting. That's a different form of liquid cooling, I guess.
So it's a war or is it a military mission? Well,
Yeah.
it's a what is it called? A special operation because we don't have approval for a war.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've not had a actual declared war per Congress since World War II, I believe. So, Korean War, nah, not a war. Vietnam, nah, not a war. Afghanistan, like,
Actually, there was no
yes,
congressional approval for Vietnam.
correct.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Why do you
it's
have
not the
congressional approval
way
at that point?
the founders, except for maybe Aaron Burr, would be rolling in their grave.
Wow. Stock says you guys need a questions time intro video or photo. I think Claude can probably make something for us.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Let's see.
WTI pumping at 105. Yeah, that's the gas out of Texas, the light sweet crude. Not good. Yes, military action, not a declaration of war. So there's a legal difference, a constitutional difference at least, but it's kind of a joke at this point, honestly. It shouldn't be that way, but that's where we are.
Big Beard, kind of wild energy was overbought, but with all the shutdowns, did you reprice your hedges or just reacting to the market at this point? That's a you question.
I think that we just have longer. I'm not seeing anything that indicates otherwise. And materially, there's been factors even outside of what's happened in Hormuz that have benefited VG. Some are not great events, negative events like the storm in Australia, knocking that large producer offline for a few weeks. When supply is so tight like it is right now, any little disruption, it's a big plant, but I'm saying 3 weeks is not massive.
Yeah.
it can cause significant ripples as well. So it's kind of a higher for longer situation, I think, for energy and LNG itself. And we were already probably structurally short anyway without what was happening in the Middle East this year as far as demand versus supply, or at least it was very tight and very close, especially with the winter storms that hit Europe and really depleted the LNG level. LNG is not, like, by the way, like crude. You can't just put it in a hole in the ground and call it good for a long time. It's not stable at the ambient temperature. There's a reason. Like if you look at any LNG field that's active, that there is a big pipe that's coming up out of the ground, and I forget what that's called, but there's a big flame on top of it because they're burning off that natural gas that has deliquefied. And so I don't know that we'll ever see a scenario where a even greater amount, like there's a huge reserve of LNG. It relies on interconnections through globalization, and I just don't see those reverting instantly. And even if they did, it takes a long time to get back to full production. So, yeah.
Do we mention Tevis's baby Nebius? Yeah, it's getting slaughtered out there, man. It's getting brutalized. And I saw somebody giving us shit for being like, "How does anybody still talk to these guys? Name one win you've had this year." It's like, well, my second biggest position is still up on the year, so that's kind of a flex. It's only up like 3% after the drawdown today, but yeah, Nebius is still up year to date. So screw that person, whoever that was.
Yeah, all four of my new stocks, which I've been buying since like the third quarter last year, all of them are up a lot.
Yeah.
So even now.
Yep. What if Trump just came out and said, "We reached every objective and we're pulling out"?
I mean, I think there's still problems with that. I think Iran wants to impose some sort of toll booth, which is going to be really not great. And I don't know that we could do that and actually see stability there.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, it's an interesting question, right? Because before this special operation, uh, we had no toll booth, right? And everything was flowing through and it was all good. And now, as a result, if the US is like, "Okay, we're done, bye," and Iran's like, "No, you're not done. We're going to keep going," I would imagine other countries would jump in there and say, "Wait a minute. We have like I don't know that other countries would really accept the toll booth alternative. I would imagine they would protest that, right?
Yes.
I don't think they're doing it now because they're like, all right, well, this is the US's problem. The US is going to figure it out. But the US, if they actively withdrew, I would imagine all these other countries would be like, "Hey, man, you know." But who knows? Who knows? Which three cheap stocks are you guys tempted to buy? Roy, you want to go first?
I mean, Robinhood's almost at the point where if I had money, I would be thinking about leaps here. 60 is what I'd said pretty much all year, and we're about at that point. SoFi feels terrible to be owning. It truly does, but I mean, the company is meaningfully accelerating. I think it's very attractive right here for the long term. Like if you're buying it for 3 months, probably don't do that. So those are two. I mean, Nvidia. It's it's Nvidia. I don't think I have to explain it. So trading
Yeah,
at 21 price to earnings forward. Like, what are we doing?
yeah. I would say Meta is absolutely one. I would say SoFi, under $15 is absolutely crazy considering the new LPB deals and all the stuff that they're putting up. And even Microsoft at 358,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculously cheap right now that Microsoft is at where it was during Liberation Day.
Yep.
So easy pickups right there. Roy, Tevis, this tax season time area would make the markets pump. Probably through it.
Well, uh, I mean, it helps because people have more cash, and the refunds are larger than typical, just because the tax code adjustments that hit at the beginning of last year, but the withholding rate wasn't changed, and so the average American household has gotten back more money for taxes. The reality is, a lot of people have gotten back their refund already. Of course, a lot will wait until April 15th. Some will file for extensions as well. We might have to because I don't know. The IRS keeps rejecting our online thing that's saying your AGA number is wrong. I go to their website and it's like right there. I'm like, copy, paste. Like, your AGA number is wrong. I'm like, oh, IRS, why do you have to be this way? But so I won't be buying the dip with the tax refund until that actually comes in. But I mean, I don't think it's going to make a significant difference. Retail has been buying the dip. They might buy a little bit harder with that refund. Um, we need the macro to change.
Yeah. Do you think Sofi can hit 40 this year, assuming no rate hikes? Yes. Again,
Yes. Likely, probably not.
it's guys, like, the year, it's a long time, man. You're 3 months into the year. This is the 4th month that's starting. You got 2/3 of the year still ahead of you. You know, like, you're in the early innings, okay? Have you ever seen your favorite team in baseball, basketball, any sport be down in the first 20 minutes of the game and then come back and win it? That's basically what this year is right now. So chill out. We can see it at
And,
40.
and no, pretty much. I mean, it's very unlikely that November, December are not really good. It's possible, but it just seasonality.
Yeah. Sven says, I'm from Europe. Love your t-shirt. Regret your vote?
Yeah. Oh, so Trump. This is the first time I've ever voted for him. I'm the type of guy that if I don't like either of the leading candidates, I'll vote third party. And I know that's throwing away the vote. Here, there's I won't go into all the reasons, but one of the things that I did like about Trump was if you look at his foreign policy, it seemed aggressive. It was aggressive on tone, but he was the first president in a long time that did not get us into additional military actions. We were already in Afghanistan, and I was like, well, I mean, he talks like something very different, but versus other candidates' policies, both Biden and Kamala Harris, significantly more aggressive. Same with Hillary Clinton in the past. And I don't want to see American lives wasted for some. I don't even know what the objective is, honestly. Like, it doesn't make sense. So there have been things that he's done that before this time that I'm like, gone about it the wrong way, done the wrong thing, maybe not. But you're going to have that with no matter what. But the world is more unstable now, and part of it is because of Trump. Now, maybe it resolves very favorably. Like the Iran regime, it's horrible. It's horrific what's happening over there. I'm not saying that that's great, but man, like, is there a chance that we see American boots on the ground? I mean, they tweet about it every single day. Troops are being sent over there. I don't think so, but I don't want to see that. Also, my sons are in their 20s. I don't think that we see a draft ever again in the United States. If we do, guess what? One of my sons might not be coming back. And I cannot be happy with that.
It's fair, I guess. Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't have voted for Kamala. Her policies, I don't even know if they were her policies, regardless. But not to get like too political, if I had the benefit of hindsight, I probably would have just thrown away my vote as far as the presidential. I still would have voted the same way with the Senate and the House races.
Yeah. What was it? I was going to say something. I think he got roped into this one, dude. I don't think he wanted to do the Iran thing. I think. Did you see? Okay, maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but did you see that the news this morning that Israel, it was like, hey, we're gonna opt out of putting boots on the ground. Sorry, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what now? Because last time I checked the globe, one of them is like 7,000 kilometers away, and one of them is like a neighbor, basically. Okay. I would be pissed if I was the ally and they were like, yeah, you guys can send your sons over there. across an entire whole ass ocean around the globe, and we're not going to do it, even though we're a more direct threat than because of the proximity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, next question. AMD has outperformed Nvidia 12 months, 6 months, and just recently dropped less. Is that not a sign of strength? What has changed so Nvidia now beats AMD?
Yeah, AMD was undervalued before, but they ended up having to give away equity to secure some deals, which I would say is not a sign of strength. Both will probably be long-term winners. I like Nvidia better. They have the better product. Like SMCI's CEO, who is smuggling in chips into China, was it AMD chips or was it Nvidia chips? It's pretty obvious which is the higher quality. Um, I'm not saying AMD is bad. I'm not saying Lisa Su is junk. She's a great CEO. It's a great company. I just like concentration, so I'll continue to pick Nvidia long term over AMD.
Yeah, that's fair. When does Micron get interesting?
It's already interesting.
Yeah, it can get more interesting though. Is there a price where you're like, this is too hard to ignore? I need to be in this right now.
Well, I mean, I was for a swing trade. I forced myself to get out for a variety of reasons, but I don't know. Like, it's not so much about the price necessarily. Like, the hard thing is, like, if you look at price earnings right now, where they're at right now, it's attractive. The forward price earnings, especially 2 years out, but even like this next year is like not even six. But that's a forward assumption. And been a couple of changes, significant changes. OpenAI backing out of some contracts. You actually had Samsung announce today that they are launching their own foundry for silicon photonics chips. And the way that they are marketing, and it's like, by the way, really good for air test systems and Teradyne and the other automated testing equipment manufacturers. But the way that they're marketing themselves, at least in part, is like, hey, with all these other foundries that are out there, they're great foundries, don't get us wrong, but you have to source your own HBM. You have to source your own DRAM. We got it right here for you, vertically integrated. And I mean, there's just three major memory manufacturers in the world. Two of them are in Korea. So, yeah, I think that all will do well, but I'm not sure if I can trust that forward price to earnings fully. And so I'd just rather invest long term rather than just on a trade with something that I'm very confident in, which is Nvidia.
Yeah. Derek says, Roy, you should record audiobooks. If you don't already, you'd make a killing.
I've thought about it before, but yeah, probably not a reality. But I have I do have like one little anecdote. So when my boys were younger, I'd read stories to them at bedtime, and I still do the same with my daughter, although she's 13. So usually she's not in the mood for it, and probably by next year she'll never want it again. But there was one time when the boys were like 6, 7, 8, something like that, and I was reading a book. My wife was laying down; she was trying to go to sleep. We were in an apartment at the time. It's when I was at my master's, and she's like, "Hey, could you turn down the TV? It's really loud." And it was me. And so I was like, "Honey, it's me. It's making all the voices and narrating." She's like, "Oh, good job. Be a little quieter."
That's crazy. That's
Yeah. I've got some accents. They're good ones. Maybe the Ron and Travis show. I'll break out one of those.
Hey now, don't threaten me with a good time. I love the act. I think if the market keeps falling, we might resort to accents in the Ron and Travis show. Let's keep going here. Roy and Tevis, aren't you thinking about acquiring more defensive stocks with lower beta? Why or why not?
You can go first.
Honestly, man, I understand that viewpoint of buying more defensive stocks. Right now, all I'm looking to do is lower my cost basis on existing stocks that I hold. I'm down on my Amazon, I'm down on my Meta, I'm down on a whole bunch of positions. And I'm like, well, these are the ones that I chose to have in my portfolio because these are the ones that I was the highest conviction in. And as it so happens, I would rather buy those because I've researched them more, I'm more confident in them, and I want to hold them over the long term, as opposed to buying something simply as a reaction to the macro that I might not be as like you got to keep in mind, Pedro, that you're talking to somebody with like 7 positions, both of us. It's not like we have 20 or 30 positions where we can think about that diversification across the board where we build an all weather portfolio. So for me, it's very straightforward. It's like, hey, do I want to invest in these core names that I have? Yes. Has anything really fundamentally changed? No. Well, I'm under my cost basis, so add more. If you loved it, in the 600s, you should love it at 500. And I do. I just need the money to buy it as opposed to diversifying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I guess VG is probably typically more defensive. It's not in the current macro, but I mean, Sven says it's too late for defensive. It's kind of like if you think that we're meaningfully going down lower, maybe not. But and there've been like there's a question in there. I think maybe we bookmarked it on fertilizer names. Like that's something that I thought about, a couple of weeks ago, and I probably won't go that direction. I just, if I want to have something that's more defensive that'll do fairly well in the current environment, I'd just buy more of what I know. So VG, or maybe if Next is not trading as well as I think it should be, I might pivot into that, even though they're not producing quite yet. So, but yeah, I'd rather like Tevis buy and hold long term, and maybe we have 6 months more of pain, but in 3 years from now, I think most positions that I'm in, I'm going to regret not having more.
And we have reached that special segment of the show where I officially stop bookmarking questions because we have 35 to get through. And unfortunately, we can't be here all night. So, no more questions. Sorry about that. Are we adding more BM&R?
I actually added a little bit more. First time that I've done that in a while, last week. But no, not a meaningful amount for two reasons. One is I'm out of cash, and so I'd have to sell something. And two is there's a pretty decent chance that crypto winter will, despite what Tom Lee is saying, and I'd love to be wrong, will continue to last maybe through September. Um, I think if we continue to see more downward pressure on Bitcoin, which will of course impact Bitmine and Ethereum, it'll be an incredible opportunity, perhaps in September or even early October before the midterms. And there's there's that known seasonality in crypto anyway. So plus we'd be more than a year into a crypto winter, and at that point, it usually will bottom well before. Like you'll see relief rallies and everything. Don't get too excited, but I think we have longer in it. I could be wrong, but I'm the same guy too that was saying there's going to be a crypto winter. It's just a matter of when, not if. And a lot of people are like, no, this time's different. Every cycle, people say that. Maybe one cycle it'll be different, but yeah, it's. I think we need to take many off of crypto winter at this point and just say it is what it is. Crypto winter. So crypto winter, by the way, is a good time to add, but just don't expect gains for a while. A year or two out, probably pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that's troubling with BM&R right now is that it's breaking below the 1 MNAV. And that's not the right direction that you want that to be trending in. Where for the past 2 weeks, it's been under MNAV and under 1 MNAV. So it's just like, okay, well, normally when this has happened, it's gone back to parity relatively quick. And now it seems as though we have 2 weeks where it hasn't gone back and it's widened even. So that's the thing that worries me, not necessarily holding it, because I mean, BM&R report was out earlier today and they're accumulating even more.
Yeah.
So,
okay, it's up.
Yeah, exactly. Let me check for you.
Turn it upside down.
Yeah. How can we claim to side with retail and then cut out two big retail heavy institutions? Absolutely, Mike. I totally agree with that.
Yep.
I don't know what SpaceX is thinking about. What's going to be the IPO open price?
Too early.
A
We don't
lot
know.
of money.
Yeah. More than it's probably worth.
They want SoFi and Robinhood Cash to stay in Tesla or big sell off to rotate to SpaceX. Yeah, so I did mention this before, probably a couple months ago now, where I said, look, I think SpaceX IPO is probably going to be bearish Tesla because there's going to be a bunch of Tesla investors that are just Elon stands that are going to be diversifying their bets across Elon companies, selling Tesla to buy SpaceX. Um, that might be like an overly simplistic take, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm kind of thinking Tesla is not going to perform very well on that IPO. It depends, of course, how it's done. And Rocket Lab would be the other one where I think that there might be some rotation because if you want to, maybe ASTS too, but when you're in a very small niche and you have investors that are kind of in that mindset anyway, that only have finite money, they're going to maybe take some from one bucket and put in the other. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Tevis, do you still have ETH 6K target by end of year? Same with the SoFi $40 question, man. We're still very early on. And I think to Roy's earlier point, like if this crypto winter is behind us, then I think we could definitely see a rally. I don't know whether it's to 6K or not, but what we know about ETH is that when it runs in a very violent way. So TBD. Why would Morgan Stanley want to divert a portion to SoFi and Hood? They wouldn't, and why would they care? Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Views on Oracle, a buy long term.
Maybe I would rather be in pretty much any of the hyperscalers. Like I think, well, we talked last on Friday about ranking our the Mag 7, and I would almost rather buy any of the hyperscalers. There's some that I won't buy, but than Oracle, and I think Oracle will be just fine and decent. I think they bit off a little bit more than they could chew as far as this AI arms race. They still will benefit, and they pulled back a little bit from that as well. But one of those things, I saw this question, so I pulled this up too. This doesn't quite show the whole story. So if you're interested in this, do a little bit more digging beyond this. This blue, though, and I probably should have flipped the colors, this is debt. And they've taken on a lot of debt to be able to build out with the CapEx. I still think it's going to be accretive for Oracle, but don't overlook the debt. This is cash and cash equivalents. If you look at the balance sheet, there are other assets on there, but be careful with assets that are intangible or goodwill, for instance. And then there's more more liabilities are on the balance sheet. But yeah, just they have the capacity for less build out than a lot of the others that are in this space, and that might constrain them from some of those gains that others like Amazon, like Microsoft, like Meta, and like Google might benefit from. You have any view on Oracle?
No, not really. And when are you looking to buy more SoFi? I think $10 to $12. So here's my thought.
11.
Here's my thought. At some point on SoFi, I will be looking to sell shares and buy leaps. Like at some point on SoFi, I will sell at $11 and take the proceeds and buy leaps because I will get leverage on my money. And that's only if I'm out of like actual money and, you know, out of the level of margin that I think is safe for me at that point in time. And that's a conviction thing, right? Because you get some arbitrage on the capital that you command. So I think $11, $10, it might get to that place. And keep in mind, I bought some leaps last week when it was at $16. So
I bought more shares at like 21, I think, and at 18. I don't think I'll buy more shares at 10 or 12. I think I'll buy leaps.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Uh there you go. I think yeah, $10 would be crazy.
Yeah, maybe a little lower for like a load the boat situation, but I mean, it's if you're long term and it's money you can afford to not have for a while, it makes it was attractive at 25. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I put out a video earlier today around buybacks, and it's interesting, Roy, because when we chatted with Anthony Nord at the beginning of February, like we asked him, "Hey, what is the fair value for SoFi?" And he said, "Look, if you look at the PEG ratio, he's like, I see the fair value as between 30 and 40." And I'm like, "All right, well, if you have the CEO who sees the fair value between 30 and 40, then this is like over 50, like 50% discount or over where the CEO sees the fair value." So it's like, why is the company not buying back stock, or should they buy back stock?
it's because they're
And
a lender.
yeah, well, sure.
Well, there's a we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but they're a lender, so they can lend against multiples of what they have as far as cash. And I don't think they want to change that or go back to the credit warehouse debt or anything like that. Um, Second is it might make capital raises in the future a little bit more challenging if they do want to go that route again. I'm not sure that there's much shareholder appetite. And thankfully, they're not going to, like, if they raised right here, I would be raising the red flag and being like, something is wrong. It's not accretive. This is bad. I'm reducing my position. Jeremy Rochelle deserves to be strung. Like, whatever it is, I would be so bearish. And I'd probably look at liquidating my position. I'd have to like know why and what's going on. There's other factors, but um, there is a point where even despite being able to lend against multiples of what they have on the balance sheet, the price is just so much at a disconnect that they might look at being buying back some shares. It'll also kind of take some of the air out of the argument of them just endlessly diluting. Um, but I wouldn't mind them like even announcing and saying, "Well, we're authorized to do this. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to do this." Like it taking a play out of Palantir's book, where they had authorized a large amount of shares, and then they ended up doing just a little bit and then taking that off the table, even though they have
Yeah.
$7 billion in no debt. Um, and so, like, if they came out tomorrow or during earnings, more likely, because they're in the quiet period, and said, "Hey, we're authorizing up to $1 billion in buybacks. Not saying we are going to use it, but we want to be ready and have you guys be aware. Should we get into an even more ridiculous valuation, we know our worth or something like that." That's fine.
Yeah.
But buybacks, I don't think buybacks will. Tevis disappeared. Okay. I don't think buybacks will necessarily like change the trajectory of the stock. You've seen, if you look at like ServiceNow, for instance, insider buys didn't do it. Buybacks haven't done it. We need more than just that. And even at killer earnings, like they're going to put up great numbers, but they're stuck in this macro situation. And it's a mess.
When's my money coming back, right? At
Well,
some point in the future.
if you didn't realize gains, it's not your money. It's there.
And if you did realize gains, well, it's the government's money. So
Yeah.
act accordingly. Are you going to swing VG or hold long term? What's your time frame?
Yes, I'm doing a little bit of that now. No, that's uh, so I have it's now a couple hundred shares because what I've done is take advantage of exactly what that dude in Iran had noted, where hey, if things are pumping one direction, it's probably not going to until things have further resolution continue. And so when VG is just pumping ridiculously hard, I have a small amount of shares, which is like about 200 now, that I will sell into that strength. And I sold some today at like it was just under 18. I didn't get the top. And then when we fell into the 16s, okay, let me get those. And sometimes, it just continues to rise. But I've not sold any shares beyond what's in the swing bucket in my mind. I have taken some gains on leaps, but I only have 10 leaps. So it's like $4,000 or $5,000 worth, maybe a little bit less after today. But I'll probably sell all the leaps at or around $20, maybe a little bit higher on some of those because I did take some at 17. And shares, beyond the swing bucket, I would need to see quite a bit higher price because and again, like they're the only thing that's in my portfolio that's really acting most of the time as a hedge. I don't want to take that out this early. Yeah. So at the same time, let me answer the other part of this. Like the long term, I have planned to be in this long term, but like the reality is, if VG goes to like $40 a share, it shouldn't be at $40 pretty much no matter what the environment looks like, no matter what the price looks like. Um, Given the float, given the size, and given like if we're in that kind of situation where they're printing money, it may cause that long term demand to actually slacken. At that point, I might look at getting out of most of my position. So um, I reserve the right to change my mind, but that's just kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Did you talk about Muddy Waters' new report? Nope. Don't want to talk about it.
He also doesn't want to talk about it. When there's people that have legitimate feedback and they're like, hey, you're getting this wrong, he just ignores them or blocks them.
When are we going to stop winning? When you get tired of it.
Midterms.
Do you think Tiger should use FSD? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Prime candidate. I mean, I think Elon should just gift him a freaking Model Y with FSD or something. I think that'd be some good marketing. Any thoughts on Figure, Roy?
I'm bullish. That's actually the one. Sometimes I'll just sit on cash when I do the swing with VG. It's a small amount. Again, 200 shares. But oftentimes what I'm doing is if I'm selling VG, I'm buying Figure because it's really high beta. And that's worked out a couple of times pretty well. I didn't do that today. I was thinking about it and then VG just kept falling. I'm like, okay, great. They're in a little bit interesting place with the private equity, kind of similar to a little bit of overhang potentially for Sofi with a loan platform business. So I would like to add, but I mean, I'm out of money and there's so many good buys. I'm not looking to sell what I have. I think I was buying at 27 and 28. So I'm still up a little bit on that. But yeah, long term, they are differentiated. They're going to benefit. Well, the other thing too, last thing with Figure, I know it's Q&A period. They're a crypto name. Now, most of the lending they do is not crypto lending. There's very little impact, if any, that's material from what's happening with Bitcoin continuing to trend down and being in a crypto winter, except for the stock price itself, because the market is just putting them in, oh, this is a crypto name. It's in the crypto bucket. Crypto's down, therefore it needs to go down. That can, again, persist until we get to the other side of crypto winter, which I expect might be maybe October. So I think I have time to add.
Yeah. Matthew says the third world country you live in sucked in your energy compared to Fiesta Friday. Yeah. Agree. Yes. Agree with this too. Again, I am not bookmarking questions, guys. I do apologize, but we still have 19 to get through. So, and this is a very important question. If you could go back to that in time to ancient Rome, the Republic or the Empire, which event would you want to see unfold? Oof.
Well, I mean, like the easy answer is the resurrection of Jesus. But if you're going to take that one off the table, there's a lot of really interesting ones. Like the second century Rome, I would kind of want to see that because I've heard, in at least in my research, it seems like that's one of the most stable eras if you're actually living in Rome. Like the Latin wars are resolved, the gladiator conflicts are resolved, and you're not at the point where the Visigoths and the Goths and so forth are starting to come through. And so just like to see how people lived back in the ancient era, that would be really interesting to me. Like if I could actually see what's happening as far as like leadership and stuff, the Gallic Wars, and actually like I wouldn't want to be in it, but like to see it and observe it.
You'd probably end up being in it, bro. Let's be real.
Yeah. They're like seeing Strabo actually with some of those late defenses against Alaric the Visigoth. That would be really interesting too. And if you're including like the Eastern Roman Empire, so Byzantine up in this, I would love to see what the deployment of Greek fire looks like. I wouldn't be allowed to see what it actually is. We have our thoughts, but I mean, like there's so many things that they did back then, which people have the tendency of thinking like ancient people are stupid and not very bright. They're just as smart as us. They were constrained by technology, and because of that, they came up with some very novel solutions. So I would love to. There's a lot that I'd love to see in that era, but not all would I want to like participate in. Let me just say that, except for maybe second century Rome. That was pretty great, mostly.
Yeah. I want to go during the golden years, during one of the good emperors, maybe like Augustus or something, and just chill. All right, peace.
Caesar Augustus, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I-
no broken republic, no freaking barbarians at the gate. Just chill. Get a villa somewhere nice and in one of the islands or something, and just hang out. That'd be a great life.
yeah. Yeah, if I could like actually change things, I don't think I'd want to, just because you never really know. Like, there's a lot of science fiction series on this, but
Butterfly effect.
the Fourth Crusade, like, why? I understand like politics, Eastern Orthodoxy versus Catholicism, but the sacking of Constantinople is like that. I think that we might still see the remnants of the Eastern Roman or Byzantine Empire today if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, we need history with Roy Weekly. What do you think of a deep analysis, a morning brief via Claude Cowork? I've been experimenting. I think Steve has a setup like this where um, he does like a full report with Claude every morning. I do a whole bunch of stuff, but I do like live news with Claude. So I have like my own dashboard where it just gives me live news, and I find that works better for me as opposed to a report. But you can't go wrong, I don't think, with a deep analysis as long as you actually read it. I feel like with a lot of the things that AI does for you, because it's so easy to get, you'll just be lazy and not read it. What's the worst case scenario for BMNR? Ethereum goes to zero.
I think they mean realistic, but yeah, that would be the worst. Well, that's not good.
Yeah,
At least we have orbs.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think like realistic worst, like Tom Lee leaves. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you're looking at price, I actually had a video that I did like 4 or 5 months ago on the worst case scenario for BMNR, and it was high single digits, just based on where Ethereum might go in crypto winter, which we're in now. I don't know that we get there, but yeah, it still would be painful from here. They didn't have potatoes. Yeah, potatoes are actually from the New World, so.
Huh. Do you speak Latin?
Uh, well, a little bit, but not really. Like it's a dead language, so yeah.
Hey man, not where
Like
you're
people
going.
are actually not even sure like how to say the like Cicero or Cicero. It's like it sounds like Cicero to me. That sounds better, but there's a good argument to be made that it's a ch instead of s. But yeah, I took one Latin class in college and I got an A, but like I know nothing. So I'm
Yep.
not Catholic, but I know the Pater Noster stuff. So
You better brush up, homie. You can't go to ancient Rome and not know Latin. You're gonna get mistaken for
So
not Roman.
I do know Alexander the Great Greek. That's Koine Greek, and I would probably mispronounce some things, but because again, like we don't know for sure. Like Erasmus did some work on it, but yeah, it could be. Uh, but yeah, Greek was outside of like the Italian peninsula more common throughout the empire than Latin by far. Legal documents, were written in Latin, but Greek was the lingua franca of the day because Alexander.
Hmm.
And then like Rome invaded Greece. I believe it was in the 200s of BCs, closer to 300, and they enslaved a bunch of Greeks. And then we're like, hey, you guys will make good schoolmasters and teachers for our kids. And so Greco-Roman culture, and they knew Greek.
Yeah. Old school, new school. Should I take my BMNR loss? It's up to you, man. I mean, I'm still holding my bag, so I'm not taking my loss, but it's up to you. I don't depends on what you want to do with that money, I guess.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with it, research tax loss harvesting just so you can see what that looks like for you. There's some good tools out there.
Yeah. Roman aristocracy were fluent in Greek. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, Romans ate with their hands until a Greek showed them a fork.
I didn't know that. Huh.
Hmm.
Like the Romans, though, like they're just fascinating. I know that like it's kind of a meme that guys are and think about the Roman Empire all the time, but like so the Republic of Rome, and actually even the under the ancient kings of Rome too. Like not as much is known there, but like Numa is like really fascinating. But just hearing about, and I don't remember when it is, I'd have to look, but the Gauls actually came extremely early in Rome's written history and ended up sacking Rome, and they never forgot about that. I mean, like people don't know how it's pronounced. There's some clues, but linguists are actually split and divided. But yeah, so anyway, like the Gauls break in, and inside like a lot of the Roman households, you would have the patriarch, the man of the house. After Rome had lost that battle, just sitting there, like glaring at them, not even saying a word, and it freaked out these Gallic warriors that like crushed and defeated the Romans. And ever since that point, like whenever there were so many wars and so many battles where Rome was like Hannibal is probably the greatest example with the Second Punic War, getting crushed, destroyed, defeated, and really until like the late or until the 400s, with what was happening with the Goths and the Visigoths and so forth, they would look like they were going to lose and lose terribly, but they just didn't know how to quit. They did not know how to quit at all, and they're just like, nope, we're going to not give up, and eventually they're just going to get tired, and we're going to win. And they would iterate and they would figure out new tactics, new strategies. Like they used to be infamously terrible at any sort of naval conflict, and of course that was First Punic War. They learned those lessons, and they're like, okay, you know what we're good at? Infantry. So we're gonna create these ships that basically have this gangplank that comes down with a big spike, and we're gonna have our heavy infantry that are wearing armor that if something goes wrong with the ship, they're all dead. And most people didn't know how to swim anyway back then, even sailors. And they learned how to leverage what they were good at for a lot that benefited them. So markets are kind of like that too. There's some things that you guys are really good at. Focus on those things. You don't have to chase every single opportunity.
As much as I want to keep this is actually interesting. The name Caesar is a Punic word meaning elephant. It was earned by Caesar's ancestor, who killed a war elephant at the Battle of Zama.
I don't know about that. I'll have to look up that. I don't think so.
Yeah, Rome was good at copying and improving designs off their adversaries' strengths. I agree. Okay, let's move on. 15 questions left. Invested in data centers? Yes.
Nebius.
Via Nebius. Can I get some gas money? No. Question one is Sofi getting into the S&P if it continues to dip all the way to September? It's not. It needs to be
eligible.
Above like $18 a share ish for it to be be eligible. So
that too, like that might strengthen the buyback argument where they're like, hey, we want to maintain eligibility for the S&P 500 up to like $1 billion or whatever. But
dude, this channel's all over the place. War Elephant is an awesome band name. So Rome is like, China, how is AI a scam? Like, what the fuck? This chat is all over the place. Okay. Any buys in other LNG names like Next Decade or in energy hedges like Chevron if this escalates or drags on into late 2026?
I wouldn't necessarily want to be something that's more oil than LNG. Next Decade is one that I might take some VG gains into, depending on how it's traded between now and then. And of course, you have Cheniere. LNG is the ticker symbol. They're probably going to get in the S&P 500 almost certainly this year. Honestly, even more deserving than Sofi, which is not eligible right now. And I was surprised it wasn't included last time. But yeah, they might be a good one as well if you're looking at American LNG names. So those are the three.
It would have been great for Sofi to be included in the S&P last time, just sneak in, make the cut, and then just completely plummet down to $15.
And then we'd be in correction territory, Tevis.
Yeah. Can we get some price targets where you'll add Hood and Sofi? Yes.
I mean, like I talked about buying some leaps for Robinhood at $60, and we're not that far away. Problem is, I don't have money. I'd have to sell something, and I don't have anything particularly that I want to sell. SoFi, likewise, at 10 or $11, if it gets down there, I wouldn't look at adding shares because I have a ton of shares right now in both of these games. I only have shares for Robinhood. I have some leaps left for SoFi, but not many. But I'd be looking at leaps for pretty conservative strikes. Like if it was hypothetical, if I was buying leaps at 11, I'd have to look at all the parameters, all the Greeks. But maybe I'd do like a $15 strike for like 2.5 years out. So pretty conservative. And the reason why is you never know what's going to happen in the short term. I think markets are actually pretty easy over the long term, but over 6 months, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Hood anywhere under 60 would be great. SoFi under 12 would be great. Yeah, don't underestimate the fact that this can drag on and we can go lower. Speaking of, how low with Palantir? Where even is Palantir right now?
I think you got to the 130s.
137.
Yeah. I mean, like it can go below 100 again. It's still trading at a premium. Now there's been a whole lot of good news. They've been doing really over the last 3 or 4 months. Net dollar retention is going to look really good. Revenue growth really really good. Too much to go into in a Q&A period, but it's trading in a tough macro, even for a stock like Palantir. And oh man, it's down 1.712. What are we doing after hours? Why are we selling off more? Stop it. Wait for tomorrow. Come on. Doesn't really matter, but no, I mean, like, could you see Palantir at like 70 or $80 a share? Yeah, like in the current macro. I think that would be hard, but it's possible. And if we do see that, I'm going to have to start selling some things to buy more Palantir.
Yeah. Okay. Who built the pyramids? I did. Great job, Matthew. Did we really land on the moon? Do all roads lead to Rome? Like, guys, is tax loss harvesting a thought this early on in the year? Yes. If you have losses, a thought is to tax loss harvest them, regardless of what in the year.
The one thing to be careful of is if you're not that confident that things might get resolved in the next 3 or 4 weeks, tax loss harvesting will prevent you, if you want to have that harvest realized, from buying within a 30-day period. So make sure that you're comfortable just sitting on your hands if you were going to get in that position. If it could just be that you're like, hey, I'm going to sell this and buy something else. I mean, it's an idea. It's not too early, I would say.
It's an idea. Roy asked you about Teradyne last week. We're down again today. What's a good spot to buy? $200?
I don't know Teradyne well enough to say, to be honest. So I think it's a great company, but as far as valuation, I'm not sure.
Did you see the bailout Canada just keep housing companies?
I heard about it.
We're not going to talk about Canada. We're not going to do it because we're going to be here all night if we do. Thoughts on the USE?
I mean, I see that circulated around retail. I'm neutral on it. I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Delo?
They're trying to pivot away from being a pure payment service provider in Latin America. I like Latin America plays, but I think Nubank and Mercado Libre are better, especially given where they've fallen. Delo is at least an okay company, if not a good company. They're probably undervalued here.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be in something that I'm more confident in, and I don't see a reason to sell Nubank and buy Delo personally. But there's a lot of people that are very intelligent that like Delo. Tanner as well, Couch Investor, Alejandro Chavez, and others. So,
why bootleg on a Monday? Because I have plans tomorrow, and we couldn't do it due to conflicts. Did I go into margin? I'm like barely in margin. I think I'm like 3K in margin. It's not like I have puts that would expire over the next month to month and a half that would put me like in actual margin that if I don't roll them out. But right now my real level of margin is nothing really. It's like 3K. Either you in Zeta? Nope. Would you buy Walmart? It's up 20% in the last 6 months.
No, I did talk about it as an opportunity late 2023, early 2024, and it's been way better than I expected. But nah, it's kind of like buying Costco, right? More so with Costco than Walmart, but it could be that Walmart trades at a premium and continues to for a long time. They've successfully fixed a lot of their issues as far as their own infrastructure, as far as like their online shopping portal. It's done very well, advertising and so forth. Serini, I can't remember his last name. He was heading a lot of those projects, and they're reaping the rewards of that. And it could trade at a premium for a good long while. We'll have to see, but I think there's better gains long term elsewhere. Now, if I was 5 years away from retirement and I wanted to be invested in individual stocks at that point, yeah, Walmart might be an opportunity there. But I'm more aggressive right here. And I don't plan to retire like at 55 or anything like that. So,
what came first, Caesar salad or the Emperor, Roy?
well, the Emperor. One was named after the other, and Caesar was, of course, named after initially. Julius Caesar wasn't technically the first Caesar. That would be Caesar Augustus, who was the adopted nephew of Julius Caesar, and called himself the first citizen. That was the preferred title because Rome had a whole no kings protest of their own, which is really interesting history. So he was very careful in referring to him as first citizen. And his executive order was to create the Caesar salad. I'm totally making that part up. I don't know when the Caesar salad was.
Do you know the Caesar salad was actually invented in Mexico?
I had heard that. Yeah.
It was like some Italian immigrant in Tijuana. His name was Caesar, and that's how you get Caesar salad.
Yeah. I had heard that before, and I know that that's accurate. I'd forgotten it though, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah. There you go.
Sometimes in these markets, guys. There you go. Sometimes in these markets, like if you're in positions that you like over the long term, you don't have to stare at the screen every single day and just see perpetual red light therapy. You can go and do other things. Enjoy Roman history. Eat some Caesar salad. Not nutrition advice.
Yeah. All right. Shall we wrap up there?
Sounds good.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us for the history hour and some stock market news and some therapy on Bootleg Weekly, of course. We will see you all on Friday for the Ron and Travis show, Fiesta Friday. We'll see how this week goes. Touch grass. Thank you very much. See you soon. Goodbye.